And the court has gone further since. It has applied Article 4 of the Geneva Convention relating to prisoners of war to terrorists held by our government. Article 4 never applied to terrorists. Ronald Reagan specifically refused to apply it to terrorists. No president has applied it to terrorists, except I guess this one, but the court did just that. Now, what does Article 4 of the Geneva Convention, prisoners of war, say in relevant part? It says persons belonging to one of the following categories who have fallen into the power of the enemy: members of the armed forces of a party to the conflict, as well as members of militias or volunteer corps forming part of such armed forces, members of other militias and members of other volunteer corps, including those of organized resistance movements, belonging to a party to the conflict and operating in or outside their own territory, even if this territory is occupied, provided that such militias or volunteer corps, including such organized resistance movements, fulfill the following conditions. That is, those who have the protection under this article of the Geneva Convention must meet the following conditions, or they do not apply. A, that of being commanded by a person responsible for his subordinates. B, that of having a fixed designation sign recognizable at a distance. C, that of carrying arms openly. D, that of conducting their operations in accordance with the laws and customs of war. Al-Qaeda does no such thing. Al-Qaeda is not covered by Article 4 of the Geneva Convention, prisoners of war. It never has been covered until the Supreme Court decided otherwise. Until the Supreme Court decided otherwise. Why am I telling all this in connection with Guantanamo Bay, interrogation, the 4 memos at issue, and the lawyers who were involved in writing them? Because the lawyers are utterly professional and respectable people who did exactly the right thing. Exactly the right thing. They were asked to try and come up with definitions and directions on what is and is not torture. They looked at American history. They looked at world history. They looked at the laws that they could gather, existing law. And they drew their best conclusions. Conclusions which clearly saved lives, and I will get into that later. Now, a couple of points. Who is out of control here? The United States Supreme Court and its majority. Completely and utterly out of line. Way over the top. Seizing authority it does not have and it never did have. That's number one. Number two, who's out of control? You want to talk about the lawyers? The slime that represents the enemy and brings these cases before activist judges and justices who they know they can count on to do exactly the wrong thing and undermine the national security of this nation. Who else? The media in this country, who've been attacking the Bush administration and its employees for its prosecution of war after we were provoked and attacked, who completely reject American history, whether it be Lincoln or FDR, and I could have gotten into JFK and LBJ and all the rest. The Bush administration conducted itself fully within the law, almost to a fault. Almost to a fault. And who else do we have to blame? Those who have been undermining our military and our national security, our efforts to protect this society from day one. They now have their man in the White House. And the reason he likes Hugo Chavez, the reason he likes Fidel Castro, that's right! The reason he likes Raul Castro, the reason he likes Daniel Ortega, because just like them, he seeks to criminalize policy differences and political differences. The idea that a president of the United States would say what Obama said today is so disgusting, it's beyond my ability to express my outrage over this microphone. And when we come back, I want you to hear it right out of the idiot's mouth himself. We'll be right back.